Everyone is having a fantastic day today. I'm wearing my mic. I hope you can hear me. If you can't, eh. um, welcome back to my channel. My name is Olivia. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh, something that I want to talk about today is I think, and it's not gonna be easy. I think you should do the hard stuff first and early. Do the hard stuff early. You should prioritize doing the hardest, most difficult tasks first. We all say we're going to do it, but do we actually live by it and do it? A lot of the times, no. I didn't do it for a while. I was skirting around the hard stuff that I needed to do in life. And I feel like doing the hard stuff early means that you have to prioritize the most challenging, the most important, the most dreadful decisions, tasks you need to make first, not only in your day, but I think in life overall. I think when you do the hard stuff early, you have more productivity, you have more focus because when you finish all the difficult tasks first, it allows you to kind of you have more space and more energy for all the tasks, the things that you want to do later on after you do all the hard stuff first. And you're not running out of steam later. I feel like also when you do the hard stuff early, you have reduced stress and procrastination. When you immediately do the hard stuff you need to do in life or just in your day, you stop wasting your energy and your time by dreading it, by skirting around it, by doing other things with your time, knowing good and well you need to get this done, and you just go ahead and attack it and you do it. I feel like that lowers your anxiety, that lowers your stress, that prevents procrastination, and it probably makes you be more disciplined and consistent in it too. I feel like also when you do the hard stuff early, it gives you confidence too. You accomplish something, you get something done. It builds momentum, like I said, because you doing it over and over again. You start building consistency, you start building self belief, you start building discipline, you start building resilience. It also is good when you do the hard stuff early. You have a better use of your time management, is what I think. Um, once you do the hardest things first, your day is less hectic. When you complete the easiest things first in life, I feel like you're leaving the most difficult parts of life. You know, if you take the easy way out and you just don't attack the hard thing first, you're still gonna have to do it either way, but you're just prolonging, procrastinating the inevitable, and you will be stressed out, knowing that you are skirting around something that's important, something that you need to get done, something that is beneficial towards you. I feel like when you do the hardest things first, everything else seems so minuscule in comparison, and you don't have any stress burdening, bur- you just don't have any stress. And sometimes, honestly, even the most difficult task in life is just simply starting to do something, walking past that threshold, doing whatever it takes to get through that hurdle. And different things work for different people. But when I tell you this, that I think Friday or Saturday last week, a few days ago, so I went out to like have dinner, and I think I wanted to vent about this conversation anyway. It must have been in my mind. And I wasn't spiraling, but I was like 10% spiraling. It was like bare minimum, like a 10%. Like it was very controlled, but I needed to vent about this. Honestly, I said, you know what? I feel like I'm behind. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, I just feel like I'm behind in life. Like everybody else my age is accomplishing all these other things. Well, whether it is They're having fun, doing whatever they want, going different places. People are dating, people are getting marriage, and that's a whole nother conversation. And I'm like, I just feel like I'm behind, like there's something I just don't feel. It's hard for me to describe. I feel like I was just simply behind. And they're like, you know what? I can see how you could say that. And so we had a whole discussion about this, about why I feel like I'm behind, why I feel like, what is it I wanted to say? Why I feel like I'm so behind while everybody else is kind of having it easy right now. Everybody else is doing the fun stuff my age, everybody else is doing all the cool things, and yet I feel like my life is boring. I'm still working. I'm still trying to develop. I'm still trying to do this process of excavation, taking out the bad, replacing it with the good, trying to be the best version of myself I could possibly be. And we talked about it. And honestly, I'm trying to remember a lot of the stuff I said in the conversation. It's not coming to me right now. Maybe it'll come to me probably after this video is over. But the more I thought about that conversation that we had and I slept on it and I woke up the next morning and I was like, you know what? Why was I even spiraling? Why was I even, I mean, it's good to vent, but why was that even a concern to me? Because honestly, I came to the realization, which I know this, but sometimes you get, thoughts come in your head where you get off track. But I had to realize again that you're right where you're supposed to be. You have to do the hard stuff. I think one of the most hardest things that you will ever do in your life is you wanting more for yourself. You not wanting to settle for less and becoming the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. I think that is one of the hardest decisions that every single person will ever make, if that's a decision that people make, because it puts you on this journey where you are going to have to hold yourself accountable. You're going to have to hold yourself accountable to mistakes that you've made. You're going to have to go in that closet, open up that closet, them skeletons in that closet. You're going to have to look in the mirror. You're going to see things that you don't like. You're going to see that, things that you do, potentially behaviors, attitudes, mental or emotional things, maybe even physical. And you're like, you know what? This is not who I want to be anymore, and I want to be someone better than this. And I mean, you can make that decision and say, I want to be someone better than this, but actually sticking to it and being consistent and building and having that momentum and consistency, that's hard. But just coming to the realization that you want something better for yourself, I feel like that is probably one of the hardest things that you'll ever think of in life, because then you kind of take that, I don't know, you just don't want to be basic or bare minimum anymore. You actually, or mediocre, you actually want to achieve something in life. You want to be better than who you were yesterday, last year, last week, last month. um but what I'm saying is, I came to the realization that, me personally, I am trying to do all the hard stuff early in life, which is becoming the best version of myself I could possibly be, so that my life can be easier later on. I want to do all the hard stuff now early in life, so that for the rest of my life I can relax. I don't want to have to backtrack, years from now, and I don't want to have regrets on what I should have done with my time now. So many people my age are, they're partying, they're having fun, they're traveling, they're just doing a bunch of fun stuff. That's absolutely fine. I'm not saying that you can't do that fun stuff. It is what it is. But at the same point, I have to realize, and I've realized this, that at some point you're going to settle down. At some point, you are going to focus on what you want out of life, and you're going to get on your grind. But you have to do all that when you're young and when it's early. because it's going to get tougher and more difficult as you get older to take care of yourself, to become the better version of yourself, to hold yourself accountable to things, to work on yourself, this personal awareness that you develop. Um, and I feel like also this too, if you're not intentional about the things that you do when you're younger, when you get older, it gets harder. If you're not intentional about what you do in your life, what you will accept, what you won't accept, who you are, people pleasing, saying no, standing up for yourself, holding yourself accountable, working on yourself and those skeletons in the closet that, you throw in there and you close the door because you don't like talking about it, and you don't even, you walk past the closet, you don't want to talk nothing about the things that you're hiding, the those chapters in your book of life that you're scared to read out loud. You're scared for other people. You're just scared to read them out loud with people listening. Um, this is a big one too that Alvin should talk on too. Just going to therapy. Going to therapy. Making a conscious, continuous effort to become the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And then when you become that version of yourself that you can possibly be, that's not a stopping point, but continuing to be consistent and motivated and disciplined, that even when you reach that point, there's still work to do. I think that is probably one of the hardest things that you'll ever do in life. And if you don't do that stuff when you're young, as you get older, it gets harder to do those things, to hold yourself accountable to those things, or even to just want something better for yourself. You can do the hard stuff now and sacrifice a little bit. You're not going to get invited to much stuff. You're going to have them boring days. You're going to be working on some of them days. You're going to have to be structured. You're not going to be carefree like all your other friends are going to be doing. But if you do that now, I feel like life gets a lot easier when you get older. And I'm not even older, but I just feel like I'd rather just get the hard stuff out of the way. So, like I said, for the rest of my life, I don't have to worry about that hard stuff because I did it while I was young. And now that I'm older, okay, I can relax. I'm at peace now. I can rest. I can relax. I can do whatever I want now because I got all the hard stuff out of my way. And you can chill, you can have fun, you can do all that. But I honestly think that when you get older, life gets harder. Life gets harder, more demands, more pressures. And I just want to get as much done out of life now, doing the hard stuff now, which is holding myself accountable to things, working on myself mentally and emotionally, being self aware, knowing when, holding myself accountable in that self awareness that, I don't like what you're doing, Olivia. Okay, let's correct that. Because I don't want to get to the point where I'm a decade or two older than I am now, and I have regrets of I should have done this when I was younger, or I should have held myself more accountable when I was younger, or I should have worked on this more when I was younger. I think I just want to work hard now and then play later, have fun later, chill later. But also, I think in this conversation that I was having when we went out to dinner a few nights ago, is I said I also feel like there's people my age now, they're having fun, they're going to all these different places, hanging out with all their friends. I get that. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think, me personally, I think all those things are happening to me, or the lot of quote unquote blessings. I think it's because the longer it takes your blessings to come to you, the more long lasting they will be. It may take you 10 years to get that blessing that you've been working towards, or see the progress in what you're doing. But and yet, once it hits, it's going to last for the next 60 years, instead of chasing instant gratification and it only lasting 5 years. So I think when I was talking about this, I said I feel like there's like this delayed gratification. This delayed gratification is extremely hard. I'm not going to lie, it's hard. It will mess with your mind too. It messed with my mind recently, like I said, that I'm like, why am I not? I'm, why am I not getting this gratification that I want? My blessings. Why am I not seeing like a return on my investment? All these things that I'm doing in life, I'm not seeing anything come into fruition. And in reality, like I said, I had to realize I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And sometimes your blessings are taking longer because they're going to be long lasting. They're going to last for a long time. And you have to build that foundation so that you can withstand and you can hold those blessings and you know how to maintain them too. And I'm not saying that when you get older in life that you're never too old to start, is what I'm trying to say. You're never too old to hold yourself accountable, to want something more for yourself, to not want to be like everybody else. You want, what is I'm trying to say? Taking responsibility for yourself mentally and emotionally, want to be being the best version of yourself you could possibly be. When you get to that point, continuing to be the best version of yourself you could possibly be. I don't think there's a time stamp to start to holding yourself accountable to wanting something more out of life than what you have now. But it's just very important that you start now. Just start now, because my mentality is I think it gets harder as the days go along or the days go by. As you start progressing more in age, what is this? This just came to my mind. As you start progressing more in age, you get more stuck in your ways. Kind of like people who eat junk food and then they've been eating junk food for so long, that's all that they eat. That's all that they're used to. And I think I don't want to have to, like I said, I don't want to have to backtrack. I want to get in those good habits now while I'm young, doing that hard stuff early, doing that stuff that everybody else is avoiding. They partying now and then they partying and having fun now, not realizing in 10 to 20 to 30 years, you may have to backtrack and realize, man, while I was partying, I should have been doing this. I should have been doing that. I should have been doing that. I'm not saying this to compare. I'm just saying it, just a thought of mine that I had. I do not, in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s is not too old to start. But the thing is, you don't want to have to keep on procrastinating to the point where you just never start. I think you should start now because, like I said, it gets harder the older that you get because you get more stuck in your ways. It gets harder for you to work on yourself when you get to that point where you're just stuck in your ways and you don't want to take the effort to be better. And I think with that, something that I had to do for me to do the hard stuff early, I had to educate myself on a lot of things. I became more aware of myself. There was a person who I wanted to be, and I was not that person yet. And I realized that this little in between phase, about this little in between stuff, in order for me, the person who I am now and the person who I want to be, I was going to have to go through that in between phase to become her. And that's going to take a lot of work. That's what I'm saying. All that hard stuff. I had to let go of some things. I had to rewire my brain. I had to do things mentally, emotionally, physically, because I want to become this version of her. And I was this version who I am, a couple years ago. And I was like, you know what? Doing the hard stuff early, holding myself accountable to life, just the things that I do, wanting something better for myself than what I was back then. Because I had a person who I wanted to be, and I knew that me kind of going slow, you know, avoiding the hard things in life, the decisions that would make me become her, avoiding all that was never going to allow me to become her because I was avoiding all the decisions, all the things, the important tasks. Goodness grief, I can't say that word. The important um, things, challenges, stepping stones in life that I needed to accomplish that were hard, but they were hard, and yet they were so beneficial in order for me to become the version of myself who I wanted to be. And I think that's what I'm saying. I hope this is making sense. I think you just really, at least I've learned, doing the hard stuff early. What did he say? Just putting your head down, focusing on who you want to be, what you want to be in life, what you want to do, and just doing it no matter how hard it is. Because, like I said, my mind was messing with me. You will think that you're behind, but actually you're really ahead. Because if you make decisions from the beginning from the beginning of your life that are good, if you make great decisions while you're young, if you are setting yourself up for a fantastic, wonderful life when you get older. But when you make bad decisions or you do not do the hard stuff early that you need to do in life, you know, that life is going to get harder as you progress and as you get older. And I feel like you'll when you do the hard stuff early and you make good decisions, I think it just betters you overall. You start to know yourself better, what you want, what you don't want, what you accept, what you won't accept. You have high standards, you hold to your standards. And I think it just really gives you the tools you need to have a better life as you get older. And I really hope that what I've been saying makes sense. Like I said, I've been trying to remember a lot of the stuff that I said when I was venting at dinner. I can't remember it for nothing. Maybe it's not coming to my mind for a reason, and it'll come to my mind in another video or in another time. But I just really think it's very important to do the hard stuff early, and don't beat yourself up when you look around and you see all these other people around your age or maybe around your age doing so many fun things in life while you are planning ahead for the rest of your life, while they're so focused on maybe that one moment of life, that one day, that one month, that year. You're thinking decades ahead. So I'm just you're right where you're supposed to be is what I've realized in that conversation. Even what I continue to realize now, you're right where you're supposed to be, and you're just right where you're supposed to be. Because, like I said, me doing all the hard stuff when I was younger allowed me to be this version who I am today, and will allow me to be the future version of myself who I want to be in the future. So, yeah, I hope this makes sense. I really do. Like I said, I probably missed some points. They're not coming to my head right now, but like I said, maybe I'll talk about it in another video. It'll come to my head. Because sometimes it's about delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. It's about longevity rather than something that's going to happen instantly. And you got to be okay with that. I have to be okay with that because I realize I continue to tell myself that things are taking a long time because your blessings and the fruition of what you're doing at such a young age is the blessings that come from that are going to be so long lasting that you can relax for the rest of your life. You can be on chill mode, relax, you're peaceful, all that. And that is the end goal that I want in life is to be that. So, having that patience because, like I said, I want to have that foundation that's a strong foundation that I'll be able to handle that version of me. And that's probably why my blessings and my fruition is taking so long is because I'm trying to become this person who I know that can handle it. All the blessings that are going to come to her in the future and the things that I want to do in life that are going to come into fruition because I need to be able to handle it. And I think sometimes that's why blessings take a long time because they're so long lasting. They're not going to be some quick blessing. You're going to be feeling the effects of that blessing for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So I got to keep that in mind. But like I said, I hope that makes sense. And I don't know, someone resonates with it. Yeah. But I hope everyone has a fantastic day today. It was a beautiful day where I live today. Um, yeah, and I'll see you guys next time.